All right, joining us now here on In the Circle of D1 Softball, powered by 643. He's been the head coach at Iowa State since 2018, coming off a 31-win season, top three finish in the Big 12. He's one of four active head coaches currently who has led three different programs to the NCAA tournament. Doesn't have to worry about following football playoffs this year, so he has more time to talk to us as a result of that. That is our good friend, Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton, joining us here in the Circle on D1 Softball. Am I right? There's no reason to watch football at this
No,
point.
I'll find myself gravitating back to it, but I guess my team's been put in timeout. So, but anyways, it's been good. Thanks for having me, Eric, and hope you had a good holiday. And it's the calendar's flipped another year 32 overall for me. My 13th here at Iowa State and starting my ninth as a head coach. And there's a routine there, and the old body's telling you it's go time. So we've had the players back and had a couple of workouts, and as always, just eager to get started.
When you reflect on last season, because I know it was a mixed emotions. It was an incredible season, 31 wins, top three finish in the Big 12 regular season, and you got to the semifinals of the Big 12 championship. The fact 15 Big 12 wins, the most ever in program history, but you didn't make the NCAA tournament. When you've now had time to reflect, what comes to your mind when you think back to last year?
Well, I think back. I obviously had a lot of calls, talked with you, talked with Justin McLeod, and then Brady Vernon, talked to several people about it. And I'm not one of those that's pounding the drum saying, we were discredited or left out or anything. We know what we did. And as a coaching staff, I knew the start that we got in February. We went into March below 500. And being on the committee, I understand what went on. Thought, that we would have had a rallying point, and maybe get in, but the RPI just didn't climb like I thought it would, and that means that's good. That sport, to me, it wasn't good that we didn't get in, but I think it's good for the sport that there's enough parity, that there's not jumping week to week. And I feel like that we were not wronged by the system. I think as a coaching staff, we had to sit down and evaluate what we did. Honestly, if you look back to our turnaround, it happened right there in Orlando against UCF. That was our turnaround. And then that weekend prepping after leaving Ole Miss and having a day to practice at UCF, we changed some things that we did with our practices. Started holding players a little bit more accountable. Just not, you're always coaching, but I think we took a different approach. I think it got to a point where we were making mistakes, and the excuse for being young had worn off, and then we had to make a change. And the couple of practices leading up to the UCF series, we tweaked it, and then we just kind of got a fresh start and got some momentum there. So that's been the stress all fall, the way we attacked our practices and our mentality, and that's the way we're attacking it coming into the first couple of days of practice. It's been a good couple of days knocking some rust off, and we had an accountability practice today. It went a little bit longer than what we wanted, but obviously we were addressing some of the things that kept us out last year. And now it's up to, okay, can we go out and win the ball games? And you're going to win and lose. Injuries are going to come into play. As long as we can stay healthy and kind of build off what we did last year, I think we got to. I don't know if I can say, like I said to you last year and what we were talking about off air, I don't know if I can say we're going to be sneaky good. I don't think we're sneaking up on anybody this year. Basically, the roster's intact, and I don't think I think people are going to be ready, and not saying that they weren't ready, but I just think that we're not going to sneak up anybody with eight new players that no one really knows anything about.
You said that the system didn't mess you, but there's a possibility that your team last year may have helped indirectly or whatever cause some changes and perhaps some positive changes, because one of the changes this year, and I'm going to have you put on you were part of the committee for how many years now? 4 years you were part of it at one point, or how many years?
19 to 21. Yep.
3 years. Okay. One of the things that was over the offseason is the committee this year has allowed where they're going to be able to use the DSR system, a metric that will go along with the KPI, not just be solely based on the RPI on that. And the only reason I bring that up is the DSR and the KPI last year had your team ranked higher, it had a higher, better ranking than the RPI did. So and I don't expect them to say, hey, they're the reason, but I do wonder if your case maybe got the committee to think, maybe we should look at other, let's have some more information, some more metrics looked at, because of a team like Iowa State that finished in the top three in a top two, top three league in the sport. Let's not just be all in on the RPI. I know the other sports, and talking to other people in the other sports, they're using KPI as a complement, and as well as DSR. Baseball is another sport that comes to mind. Do you see that at all there as a
Yeah.
at least as a positive? I know it doesn't take away the disappointment of not making it, doesn't change that, but there could be positives long term from this.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime that you can get more data points, I followed the KPI. I followed a couple of others that people put out there. I know that probably that they looked at it as a pilot program. I mean, I wasn't in the room, but I think anytime you can get more data points and test it and know that last year, if you go off of the KPI, then we're probably in. But I mean, at the end of the day, we got to be accountable for ourselves for the start that we had. But let me tell you this, with what happened with us is if you would have told me that we were going to have the kind of season that we had, and we weren't not telling what month that we had that was bad, I would have cashed that check with as young as we were. But obviously, I think with the changes coming up, and adding anytime you can get more data points and more information in the room, there's so much information in there, and then you start talking things out and sitting there, and then you start looking at the bubble teams. And I think people think you just arbitrarily put a hat out there and pull a name out of the hat. The committee does a dang good job, and I totally respect the work, and I do not feel like I feel like if you go off some of the criteria, I think we would have done a better job with as hot as we were. I think we could have made a run, possibly win a game, maybe get to a regional final. I don't know. I don't think we were a super regional team, but then again, we could have gotten in and gone 0-2, and then everybody's saying, hey, why did they get in? Their RPI was suspect. So I think the more data points we can get, the more conversation we can have, the more information. I think I've been in it. I think the room works well. I don't think our system's broke. But I mean, but you got to be careful when you start getting all these data points, because then you got to make sure that you're fairly comparing all the teams with all the criteria, and the KPI and the other, it's slipped me the other one that wasn't part of the criteria. And if this year, if it is, and seems like it will be, then I think that'll help things out. Plus, it's going to be a tougher job for the committee, but seating all 32 teams, there's going to be a lot of hours in that room, I can tell you for sure.
Well, you're a pro at the podcast there. So we'll keep it there. What is your reaction now, being official, that it will be seating 32 seats for the committee this year? What's that going to be like?
Well, I think, I'm not in. I wasn't in the room and the discussions with going to 32.
No, but
I think there's going to be.
But you do know what goes into it, so
Right.
you'll exactly know what they're going to go through. It's hard seating 16. Now you got to seat 32.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more difficult. I don't know, because I haven't seen the criteria and what the NCAA is going to base things on. How far teams are going to be able to travel. How many flights are they going to have? I mean, that everyone's sitting there thinking. I think everyone thinks the NCAA has all this money, and you know that they have to do not only the D1 championships, they got to go do the D2, D3 women's and men's sport and everything. There's not an endless budget. And I think that's the first thing we got to get out of everyone. Well, you know, they have all this money. And, you know, so I'm not sitting here saying that we don't make mistakes in the room or, you know, make a bad call. But I think there's a lot of things that we got to figure out. How many flights are we going to have? Are we going to be able to ship people across the country? Are they going to narrow the bus ride, you know, within what is it, 400? The number's slipping me. Are they going to expand that out? Are they going to pull that in? I think I think it depends on what happens because there's going to now you're seeding an extra set of teams, and I think it's going to be more difficult from a standpoint in my mind's eye that if you seeded the top 16, then you can start mismatching people and having the teams go there. I think it's easier to set regionals by travel standards and by the travel criteria. But now with it going to 32, is that going to make it more difficult or is it going to make it more easy? I think it's going to, I think the jury will be out on that for lack of better terms.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting how they evaluate that there. And like I said, now they'll have the KPI, as you mentioned, and the DSR, which is a new metric that baseball's using. Softball will use that this year. Diamond Sports there, they do. But and again, both of those metrics had you ranked higher than the RPI did. Now, I'm not saying it would have made a difference. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it is at least something. One last question on this, because I remember asking you about it in Oklahoma City. On the one hand, you're fighting for your team as the head coach. You should. And you had a gripe. You had a legitimate case. But then there's this other part of you that knows what it's like to be in that room and knows what it's like to hear the criticism on the outside. How difficult was that for you personally? Because I know how much you respect the people in that room and you know how hard that job is. But on the other hand, hey, I got to fight. My team has got a gripe here. How difficult was that for you personally?
Well, you were there. You asked the questions, and they were tough and they were fair. I had to walk that line to fight for my team. Obviously, I honestly this day felt the team deserved to be in there for how they were playing at the time. And yes, February counts. That's the lesson learned, right? But I also think that there may have been, and there always is, Eric, you know this. I feel like maybe there were some teams put in there that weren't playing as well, that got in, and I said what I said, but if you remember correctly in the conversation, I kind of walked the tightrope between knowing the criteria and what we did and knowing the RPI, but knowing at that time, I honestly can sit here and tell you, and it depends on the region, I get it, but I felt that if we would have gotten in, we I felt pretty confident, depending on the region, that we had a shot at being
Sure.
as good
No doubt.
as good as the 21 team, sans Sammy Williams. I mean, we had some good players. We didn't have a true superstar on the team, but we had a cohesive unit that could have won one game and maybe two to get us to the regional final. But I also know I think you remember, we didn't talk about the other side, but I can sit here today in mid-January looking back and reflecting that we didn't meet the numbers that we had, and our team thought they were going. And I said, you guys are not going to get in. We did not have a watch party. My experience and my wisdom,
Right.
and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I just didn't want to set us up to go into a room and
Sure.
sit there with cameras watching us and in my mind's eye and in my heart knew that we didn't have the complete resume to get in. But based on the last 10 and the quality top 50 wins that we had, I mean, there's several checks on that box. And I think I think these data points are going to help because I think if you take the three data points and the RPI is high, and then the other one, I think we were upper 40s or I've slept since then and kind of washed that out of my mind. I think if you average those out, then I think we get in with possibly what this new system. And I don't think it's the Iowa State rule. I just think it's where we're at with the data that and the analytics that we have across the sport and across everything we do. I think we're just improving as we go.
Well, that's where your experience being in the committee room probably because I'm glad you didn't do a watch party because right because I've been in a watch party where teams are disappointed and things like that. That could be heartbreaking, and your team deserved to be celebrated. It did not
Yeah.
deserve to be feeling bad about themselves. It just is what it is. On that. I do wonder though. Did you have conversations with yourself from time? Because there had to be a part of you where like we should be in, but then there's the committee side of you that takes over and says, yeah, but I also know what they're talking about. Like there must have been some like the old when you see these in the comedy shows where you got the one side of you like all positive and then the other side, yeah, but constantly battling each other. I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean it was an internal battle because I knew how good of a unit we had. Maybe it wasn't the tightest or most cohesive unit. I mean, I've coached a lot of years, so I've had teams. There's been lacking culture, there's been lacking chemistry, and this team had as the year went on and they grew together, not this team, last year's team, they had the it factors, but we just didn't have it until the first week of March. And so, yeah, there was a side of me, like I said, that thought we should get in, but there was always that um, thing on my shoulder whispering in my ear, "You didn't get it done. You didn't get it done. You didn't get it done."
Trust me,
So,
I was up in the OKC hotel that weekend, and because I would look at your resume and I'm like, this should be a tournament team. But then I saw like they're not going to get in, and I'm not going to mislead people, right? Because that's kind of
yeah,
unfortunate.
well,
That's part of my job. That's the uniqueness there.
and that's why, you and I had that side conversation. You don't miss on your selections, and you were honest with me, and you told me what I didn't want to hear. But
Right.
I also knew when I asked the question, and I asked the question wanting the a truthful answer from someone outside of our staff, our team, and our locker room. And that I forgot where it was after we talked,
Sure.
and I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear it from somebody that might not be as biased as I was. And
Right. Right, and that's because I've like it's better because if I mislead you, if hey, you're going to be in, and then you're not in, you're going to like be blindsided. What's the point? That
no,
that
no,
doesn't
there would have been no blame placing. I mean that lies right on my shoulders. I'm the head coach, and I didn't do a good job getting us ready in February.
But this also could be a positive that could influence this year's group. I spoke to Jesse Clemens, your star player, which many people could listen to this on the podcast feed if they're listening to this right now. And I was impressed with her for a lot of reasons. We'll get to her later, but one of the things she said is that the players got the message, and that has been a focal point from this fall on about getting off to a good start, about the month of February. It seems like it hit home with the players. Have you sensed that? And talk about that message about getting off to a good start.
Yes, it's been a focus. It's been and not only have we talked about it, and we don't want to relive that, and the way we've won about our business as a coaching staff. I mean, I have a fabulous staff, and the way we've gone about our business, it's been preached, message has been received, and we're working as a cohesive unit to get there. And I think it's great. Jesse is pretty straightforward. She doesn't beat around the bush, and it does not surprise me in the manner that you said she said it in. Message received. And I think it's gone to our leadership and the ones that need to be able to fuel it down to the newcomers that we have, the two transfer portal players that we have. I think the message has been received, and like today, our practice, we had a great first 2 days of practice. Today wasn't very good, and it was immediately said. And after I walked away from the break, I said what I had to say, and our other coaches, said what they had to say, and then we walked away, and I'm sure that message was conveyed. But also, too, when you return, 2 days is adrenaline. The third day, you're a little ran down for the first time. You start back in the weight room. We knew that the practice today was going to be tough. but we also knew that it would probably that would be the day that our mistakes creep back in, and then we'll do a lighter day tomorrow and get back on track. So, but that's good message you're hearing from one of our leaders.
A year ago, you had a young group, lot young, and that's probably why it took you a minute to get it
Yep.
together. And you're right. I was there in person when your team really that was the turning point. Jesse Clemens agreed. Orlando. She said there was a practice leading up to that UCF series that flipped everything, that changed everything, and that you were a different team from there. I'm sure you're shaking, you're nodding, so you remember what she's talking about in that
Right.
practice about that growth.
And the thing is on that, Eric, I think a lot of people sit here and think there was a closed door meeting and things were thrown, and it wasn't. It was just one of these things that we came in with a different practice plan. We explained what we were going to do, what the expectation was, and then the players went out and executed it. And if they hadn't have bought in, it wouldn't have happened. But you know this, and people are probably not familiar with our team last year. We had after an injury, we had a freshman catching, a freshman at second, a transfer portal new to our program at short. We had Clemens. I mean, there were times that Clemens was playing. She's played six positions. She wants to be the next one to play every position before it's over with. But that we were swimming upstream with youth, and I knew it was going to take time, and maybe I once again it all lays at my feet. Probably should have done it sooner, but I kept on thinking with the growth and the maturation of the team. I waited for them to do it, and we had to take it over as coaches and come out and kind of facilitated it. And from that point on, we were really good.
Well, the beauty of it is you got a good chunk of that roster back. I know you've added another talented freshman class, and I also sense momentum. And I wonder if last year helped in this momentum. You had a top 45 recruiting class, according to D1 softball, that took place in November. And I know you've been excited about that. Have you sensed that momentum as a result of the way you played last year? Because you have another strong class. I know you were excited about last year's freshman class, and I know you're excited about this year's freshman class. And it sounds like you got another talented freshman class coming.
Yeah, I think we had to learn what our niche was. I mean, in the world of NIL and the changing landscape of college sports, we had to learn, okay, where are we going to put our resources and where we're going to go, and we just kind of started. These kids are more talented in finding, turning over stones and finding a gem or finding a diamond in the rough. That's all cliche. But I think we were more intentional on, okay, do we really have a shot at some of these players that we've gone for after the years? Or do we go and get a player that wants to be at Iowa State? I mean, we bring these visits in, I think now with the limit of five, I think we were bringing in a lot of players that probably wouldn't have taken a visit to Iowa State if there were still five visits. And we had to go back to evaluating, not that the players that we got are not worthy of being Power Four or players at Iowa State. We just had to be more intentional. Okay, does this, and I think you've known me well enough now, we were intentional of, okay, is this our type of player? Will they fit what I want as the head coach and our staff? And also be intentional of uh, talking with our players and saying, hey, this kid's a 4 or 5 star kid, and listening to them when they come up and tap you on the shoulder and said, this player's not going to work here. And I think we got more intentional and kind of started fishing in a different pond and knowing that a shift to players that kind of fit what you got to be a special player to play here. I mean, there's limitations. You mentioned it on a broadcast at UCF that my mom is totally loves. You're the best broadcaster, and I wouldn't have never seen the clip if she hadn't have sent it to me. And I always appreciate the kind words, but I think it's we just had to get back to um, get the outside noise out and the NIL and the rev share and find out what players fit the type of players that I want as a head coach, our staff wants, and then know that fits with our locker room. And we've done a good job at the last couple of years. And you're absolutely right. Told you it was a sneaky good freshman class last year. I wasn't wrong. I'm never going to. I'm always going to shoot straight on that, and I think kids appreciate that, or young women appreciate that. And I think the people that we brought in fit in, and we have a chance to be right there, barring injuries. But I think we've got a good shot, and our 27 class is looking good so far.
I appreciate the compliment from your mom there. I fight. Usually everybody tells me, hey, they're fans of Alex Powers, and I totally get it. So it's good to get. I got to get it my share. I'll take the share I can get on that.
We still love Alex too, but that's what Mama caught.
I
And
appreciate it.
she's a Southern mom, and you were talking well about her baby boy. So
Well,
even though I'm pretty old.
just documenting facts. That's what we
Yep.
do. Last year, your offense was the best offense. If you look at all the offensive stats, pretty much in every category, it was the best year Iowa State's had offensively since 2015. You return a strong core from that offense. One player you don't return is Angelina Allen, who graduates, and is probably off doing baseball scouting or somewhere or whatever she's doing, she'll be successful at doing. Just speak to this core of this offense, and then certainly a question you're going to get asked between now and the start of the season is how you replace Angelina Allen, which the answer is you don't, but that means somebody else steps into that role, or
Right.
plural, players step into that role. So just talk about the offense outlook and kind of trying to replace the production and the things that Angelina Allen brought to the program.
Well, you don't replace Angelina Allen just as a person, student. Was a pillar in the community, very active. And she's not in baseball. She is now the enemy at Arizona. But just kidding, Angelina. Love her. It was her birthday the other day, and spoke with her on text. But she's in analytics, doing what she's wanting, and I hope Coach Lowe and them are taking good care of her because she's a wonderful human. And you don't replace the leadership that she provided. You just got to hope someone steps into that vacuum. And Jesse Clemens has shown a penchant to be able to do it. I think some other players that are going to be able. McKenna Andrews has kind of stepped in. Sydney Malott has kind of stepped into that. Reggie Bartholomew. We got a good group of seniors, so I think it's kind of formulated into a group rather than just like Angelina last year, because she was really the lone senior. We only lost two seniors. She's the only starter that we lost senior wise. And I think it's going to be a group thing. I think Jesse's Clemens is going to be right there. One, she's got the personality. Two, she's got the work ethic, and three, she's got the competitive fire to kind of. I think great leaders have got to be able to do that, but balance it and still not be overwhelming with it. And I think we got a good balance. But offensively, Tatum Johnson, once we inserted her in the lineup and kind of got away from her trying to be a two-way player, she blossomed. Reggie Bartholomew was good, but she battled every hot type of injury, and I'm looking forward to seeing her healthy. Sydney Malott had a career year, had two good years in Illinois, and had 11 homers and was very good in the middle of the lineup. Andrews got to play on an everyday basis and was in the upper 200s. Carly Ford stepped into a vacuum when Maddie Knowles had an injury, and we lost her, and then she stepped in and made the all freshman team. It just goes up and down. I'm hoping for a bounce back year from Tiana Poole. So when you talk offensively, a lot of the pieces are still together, and I think there's going to be still yet a couple of freshmen that are going to be able to step in there and provide some help there too.
To back up your point, Tatum Johnson, 353, 7 homers, 26 RBIs last year. Carly Ford, 317, 4 homers, 21 RBIs.
In a half a season.
In half a season.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You mentioned you still though think there'll be a couple freshmen that'll contribute offensively and defensively for that matter. How do you balance when you have so much experience coming back, so many play like you do, so many starters back, with developing a new face, whether it be a freshman or a transfer, like I know you have with Shepard, they're coming over from Missouri, an infielder. How do you balance that out, and what can we expect from the newcomers as far as on the offense and defensive end?
Right. I mean, and you can't forget Jesse. I mean, we talked to Jesse at the top, but I
Yeah.
mean, you throw in her numbers, and that was a pretty formidable, lineup. I think right now I would say that Cadence Shepard is kind of the lead person at second base. She had a really good fall. I mean, obviously, uh, she's going to provide a little more power and RBI production than and then with losing Serenity tries to the portal. They're two different types of players, and but I think she's going to provide a little more home runs and everything. I think she's a key. I think Casey Kane, one of the freshmen that came out of Jesse Clemens's high school. Really don't want to talk much about that high school. I don't want people nosing around over there. But I mean, we've had some. I mean, we had the Spell Hubs, we've had Jesse Clemens, we've had Casey Kane. I think what I've seen from the fall, if Casey does what I think she's going to do, and Carly doesn't have the sophomore slump, we're going to have a very good problem offensively trying to figure out how to get people. And that's not talking about Isabel Nosen coming back. I mean, there's definitely players on the bench that Ashley Miner, has had she was good off the bench for us, and there's just we have a lot of options. I think probably depth wise, this team's more deep than our 21 team was really good, but it wasn't as deep as this team. So I think Kylie Espinosa comes from a good program out of California, Tyson's Angels. I mean, we got to try to find a place for her. So I think there's definitely some options for us and a little bit more depth if we have injury.
Yes, you mentioned Jesse Clements, who's the top 100 players in the country according to D1 Softball's preseason ranking. 77 unanimous first team, all Big 12, led you in a lot of the offensive categories. I'm more interested. How do you envision using her? Because you used her all over the field. You mentioned it. There could be a game at some point in her career and she could play 9 positions if you needed to. Uh,
Yep.
do you envision her moving her around like you did last year? Would you like her to stay in a certain position? What's kind of the vision with her? Because she's such a phenomenal athlete for with her background in track and basketball. I mean, she excelled at everything. I mean, I saw her play shortstop. I think she was a natural, and then next thing I know, I was like, wait, why are you moving her to the outfield? And she looked like a natural there too. So it's like it's a good problem to have. But how do you envision using her?
Well, hopefully, right now, with as solid as we are, I think what's best and this is what's really nice and refreshing about Jesse Clemens. If and I'm going to say this, if she is not happy about not playing shortstop, she sure in the heck doesn't show it. So I think she is a team first player. But I think Jesse will do whatever it takes. The kid's a winner. I mean, and what people don't know, she was an MVP of a state championship basketball team, point guard. So I mean, and she was a state champion in track. So I think the future is she'll be our shortstop. Not this year, but with Bartholomew and Malott and Andrews all being seniors, I think with her and she's willing to do it. I think we're best having all of them in the lineup, and the most natural person to go out and play outfield is Jessie, and she's willing to do it. She works hard. Today she took all of her reps in the outfield. And then she took reps at shortstop. So, barring injury, last year a lot of the moving around was injuries and being nicked up and trying to figure where we wanted her. But I think right now, if today was opening day, she would start in left field. And but the future is, and we've had a conversation. I In the foreseeable future, she's probably going to be our shortstop.
Yeah, she said she'll play everywhere. She admitted
Yep.
first base wasn't her favorite. She admitted it.
Yep.
It took her a minute.
But
To
when we moved when we figured that out and
Yeah.
figured we could use that speed in the outfield, we moved Malott over and inserted Andrew. So that's what I'm talking about, this
Yeah.
depth. But I mean, I hope that we can only play her at short to spell Bartholomew, but we really need Reggie to be healthy because you can go back and read her state stats from Miami of Ohio. And I think Jesse will be our shortstop someday. I just hope for our team's sake and for us to
Her,
be really, really good that it's next year.
when Bartholomew has a
And
nice
that's been
swing.
and that's what's been good. That's been conveyed to Jesse. So there's been communication that I'm big on that. I don't want any surprises, and she knows the plan, and she knows that I wouldn't hesitate to use her at third behind the plate and pitch.
Correct.
If so, she's going to get her dream at some point. I just don't know how the pitching's going to work.
No, I agree. Bartholomew has a nice swing too. I was impressed hearing her live. The one thing you do need to do, and I'm going to speak on Jesse's behalf on this because I don't think she's brought this up to you. You mentioned she played basketball. She has no intentions of playing basketball. Okay, so you're good there. However, we did talk. You gotta help her get inside the building at Hilton and take some shots like that. She before her time is done at Iowa State or school. Get her a chance. She doesn't want to she doesn't want to play for the basketball. She just wants to take some shots at Hilton.
Okay.
One of the great arenas. One of the great basketball.
Okay.
Can you help her with that?
Well, all she's got to do is talk to Audie Crooks. Audie Crooks can get anything done right now. But I'm sure Coach Finley would let her in and let her shoot a few in Hilton. But I she was a good basketball. I think she's her and her brother are like really good cornhole players.
She
Her
told me it
twin
gets a little.
brother.
Yeah, she tells me it's a little competitive there. Those two get a little
Yeah, well,
competitive.
and I think I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I think they play in tournaments and stuff, so I'm not sure
Oh,
about that.
well, I didn't. That's new information.
They sandbagged me and Coach Jackson last year. Let's play a little cornhole, and I think they beat us like 21-2.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is if she offers me to play, I better be careful.
I wouldn't play her at anything.
I wasn't planning on it, so that just confirms that on that very much. Let's talk your pitching staff. You return a good core
Yes.
of that pitching staff by
All right.
committee, which really excelled towards the second half of the year. You've added some pieces there, including an Ava Mullen transfer out of Michigan State. Just talk about your pitching staff outlook this year.
Yeah, one, if we remain healthy, I think that it's going to piece together and be I mean, obviously here we call it the bullpen. You got senior Jaden Ralston back, and Lauren Skirman, a junior back. I think those are the known commodities. Sammy Potvin is a sophomore that provided a few innings last year. Hopefully, she'll be ready to go. She has been kind of rehabbing and making her way back. Um, we have, you mentioned Ava Mullen. Hopefully, a change of scenery. I mean, positive player is always had good things to say about everywhere she's been in softball, and hopefully, a change of scenery and maybe usage will help her. But she was really good for us in the fall. Olivia Palumbo, we call her Liv, obviously, made one of those freshman lists out of Oklahoma. She had a good fall. I mean, and then Coach Kate's been able to tweak some things and get some things going for us to get her to where her velocity was up towards the end of the fall. And then, excited to get Haley Holtz. She had some setbacks this fall, but another freshman that I think that complements Liv really well. She didn't get to throw a lot of innings this fall due to injury, but I think we've got that straightened out and got a nice little bullpen of six pitchers that I think can complement each other and maybe will help us solve I think if people watch us closely, we manage the staff. Coach Sennett did manage, the staff where we either won every series on Friday night last year. I don't know, or Friday. We won every series opener of the Big 12 last year. And then, depending on what day we picked, we had some difficulty when we were going game one, game three. That's where we were winning series, and we were trying to short in the middle on. And then later in the season, we went after and won game one and game two quite a bit. I think UCF's the only series that we swept last year. And if we can piece it together with these freshmen and do a better job, I think we'll be more competitive because some of our games were lopsided on game two. But we knew that it was going to be difficult with as thin as we were because and we pieced it together. And then hopefully this year we have the depth that we can to get it a good, whether it's game two or game three, you have a good setup to give us an opportunity to win all three games. I mean, we took some run rolls in game two and then a few in game three, depending on how we went last year, just because pitch counts ran up on everybody. So I think we have the depth to combat that this year.
Yeah, you got a lot of depth and experience. Because you were, and the thing, and I think that applies to the Big 12. I thought the league was young last year. If you look across the board, your team was young. UCF was very young. We've highlighted that UCF series. That was a turning point for that team too. They were young and they hit some adversity there, but they that was a turning point. They played their best softball after that. So I think both teams actually. I know it sounds very cliche. I think both teams benefited from that series. But UCF's young. They got a lot of pieces back. Oklahoma State has a lot of pieces back, etc. This feels like, Coach, that this league is as deep as it's ever been, and it could be easily a 6-7 bid league throughout. It's going to be a battle every weekend, especially with only the top 8 getting into the Big 12 championship this year. You've been around the league a long time here. Your thoughts on this year of the league for the Big 12 2026?
Yeah, I think it is. But the important thing is can I want to be careful on how I say this, is the narrative, does everybody else see it? And I'll leave it at that. I think, there could have been a case for us last year. There could have been a case for BYU. Should have been, not could have been. Take us out. I mean, we've talked at that for quite a while, but, I think Gordon had a good team. It's the kind of thing about competition. I feel like did us rise into the occasion and get into the semis for the third time in 4 years cost them? I mean, who knows? But I think just hopefully that our league will get I mean, we were the number 3 or 4 last year, but will our league get
Number
respected?
3, number 3
Yeah,
league. Yeah.
yeah, I thought we were 3. I don't think we've been below 3, but yet our conference is one of them. And I'll say this: I feel like one of our conferences is one of the most difficult to get all the teams in that should be in. And that is what it is. But I think Texas Tech, obviously strong. I think OSU. I think Kenny Gajewski will have them back. I think they hit a little bump in the road last year, and then then it's maybe those two and everybody else. But just like you and I were talking offline, there could be a case made for every other team in the Big 12 being 3, 4, 5, and I think I think there's parity there, but parity is not always a bad thing. I think it's parity that I can sit here and make a case for 7, 8 teams of ours getting in, and hopefully when we get into season we can start talking, well, let's get to 7, 6 or 7. But I think if some things fall the right way, I think there could be 6, 7 or 8 that we can be talking about.
No doubt, with multiple teams hosting like
Yep.
last year at a
Yep.
minimum. I agree with everything there. And Arizona State's a team I didn't mention. They got a lot back too. They were young last year. That's my point. There's a
Yep.
lot of talent
Well,
back in
I
the league.
don't, I don't forget. Hope Megan forgives me. We don't play them, so I'm fine with not seeing. Well, you need iron sharpens iron. I mean, maybe they should be, but we don't. We unless we face them in the tournament, we miss Kenzie Brown this year. So even though we got 2 wins off of them last year, we know how good that pitching staff is. So I mean, I was just saying 3, 4, 5, but you can make a case 3, 4, 5 with 3 or 4 teams. We were talking I'm not going to talk about us, but we're talking about UCF, ASU, Baylor, BYU, Arizona, KU. I mean, we got a new
It
coach
goes
at
on.
Houston.
Yep.
It goes on. I know Noah Court. I know and Amy at Utah. I know that they're not going to be the same team that they were at last year. And Court and I still being close. She really loves this freshman class. So they could be like us. They could be the Iowa State of last year. They didn't have a good season, but could they finish third, fourth, or fifth? Like you said, I think I think right now the clear favorite's Tech, and then then it can be a crapshoot after that. But I expect with Malin that OSU will be up there, and then with Kinsey Brown ASU, and then Bear always does a good job with the UCF stuff. So I'm already building up to okay, basically what's the rest of the Big 12 looking at, and I think it's going to be very strong.
It's really exciting. I right now the Big 12. You look at it, men's basketball. It's the number one conference in the sport by a wide margin. When you look at the metrics and with the rankings as we're recording this, they got 3 teams in the top 10, including Iowa State in there. Women's soccer, they just coming off a record historic year in the Big 12. They got like 8 teams in the field. Volleyball was the number one conference in the sport. I think there's a lot of momentum as far as Big 12 athletics with fan support and the rankings and the competition across a board on all these sports. And I think you make a great point. I think people need to start realizing that. And I think sometimes, especially some of the national media focuses on maybe a mainstream sport here or there, 1 or 2 sports, but across the board, I think the Big 12 right now is flourishing in a lot of ways.
I would totally agree with that, and mainstream media needs to stay off of narratives, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go on this. This is my only Chiefs question for you this year. Will, will Travis Kelsey be back, or is he done?
The way it ended, I could sit on both ends. The way it ended for him and with Mahomes getting hurt, I could see him coming back not to go out that way, but he might have done that this year. But I could also say since he's getting married, he might, and I think he's going to have a broadcast career. So whether he does the podcast, I think he's going to be in the booth. My gut tells me no, but with the way him and Mahomes with the injury and everything, um, I would have to say if they can shore some things up that he might be back for one more year. But I don't know. But it's got an end at some point. The playoff streak ended this year, and rightfully so. I mean, they weren't one of the best teams, and I think they just got to clean some things up. But my other teams are doing well, so that'll be all right.
That's understandable. Understandable.
I'm on the Minnesota Wild, which is the third best team in the NHL right now, and my NBA team that being an Okie, the Thunder are pretty good.
NBA champions. Yes,
Yeah,
congratulations. I
so
forgot to mention
yeah,
that.
I've had it. My sports teams have had a championship run that have all since 15. My favorite teams have got a World Series championship, Super Bowl, and an NBA. Now we'll see if Kaprizov and the guys can do it for the Wild.
Avalanche are looking pretty good. Pretty good.
They're the best. I think they're the best. But so far, the Wild split with them. So one of the 2 losses, and I don't know. I haven't checked the standings, but people want to know if I'm watching all these sports. If I'm just a sports junkie. They're probably wondering, does he ever do softball?
Oh, you do. Yeah, you do. I'm more than satisfied. My Panthers have 2 Stanley Cups. I don't think we're making them. We're
Yeah.
good either way.
You still got to get you still got to get your Marlins back into their once
Ooh,
every decade.
yeah, that's tough.
They do a good job of scouting talent. They just don't keep it.
Yes,
Um,
that correct. Yes, we just traded
yeah,
Cabrera to the Cubs recently. That's
I didn't.
who needs
I
starting
didn't.
pitching there.
Yeah,
Your
I
Royals gonna
didn't
be
know
all right.
that.
Your Royals gonna be all right.
Yeah, they got to fix some outfield. They got to get more offense in the outfield. But I think did you see that? They don't hit enough home runs. They're moving the fences in this
Yeah, I
year.
saw that.
Yeah, so
If,
that's a
wow.
bit. That's a big. I think fourth or fifth in square footage in the outfield. One of the largest outfields, and they've always built it on single, doubles, and speed. But that's not what sells tickets these days. But
Wow.
yeah, they're moving. It looks like I can't figure out what. Uh, I had to have read it wrong because they said they're moving the fences in, but it's 330 down the lines, but I read where it's 354. That's not moving the fence in. But the alleys are 10 foot.
Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting. I want to make sure I read the right story. But the alleys for sure 9 foot, and it seems like they're leaving center field still 410.
Interesting.
So
More of a
yeah.
sideway there. You're
I
not
think
are
they're
you,
doing it
yeah,
based on how the wind blows there, but
probably.
I haven't.
Probably.
I'll be honest with you, with practice starting, I haven't read the whole article.
It's probably for the best. You got time. Still got time. Are you making? You're not making any changes to your facility, are you?
No, no, we got new. I mean, everything's pretty new in there.
Okay, I was
So
just saying you're not moving
new
any.
video.
Okay, all right, fair.
No, 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 no. It already blows out most of the year during our season. So northwest wind in the spring here, where it blows out to dead center. We can't have that.
No,
So
probably
I
not.
always like when March and April rolls around, where it starts switching out of the southwest and goes more right to left than out to center.
It's true.
Once
Last.
again, the boring things. Kate will always ask me when we go to a park. She said, "Okay, we're playing at UCF." I said, "Well, the orientation's this, and the wind is going to blow. It's going to be blowing." You got a northwest orientation there, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you were there,
So
that weather was brutal. That cold. I've never went like the Thursday night game was brutal. I've never. That was
what do
one
you
of the.
mean? We
Yeah.
were in short sleeves.
For you got you enjoyed that. Yeah, you
Yeah,
enjoyed
it
that
was
one.
it was good. It was good stuff for us. But anyways, I think Kate jokes with me because she'll say, "Which way's the park go and which way's the wind?" And I always have that. I give her that report of the weather before every series. So
I'll make a note of that. Okay. I'll make
yeah.
next time I'll
So
ask you about weather.
basically,
Yes.
you're basically all your viewers and listeners are going to say this guy's crazy.
No, they're going to ask me now to ask you about weather at their particular games, which could be a bigger problem there. Let me let you go on this. You mentioned health, obviously being a big part of that, but other than health, what are that's going to be one key to the season. But what are a couple questions you're looking forward to finding about your group when you start the season here that will help be keys to the year?
Oh well, the number one question is like last year. I think we started 1-4, and are the question is, are we going to answer the bell and get out of the gates? And I want us to get out of the gates. You're not going to go 56-0, but can we get out of the gates like we're in the Belmont or the Kentucky Derby? Can we get out of the gate? Can our team get out of the gate? Like 4-1 or 5-0. I mean, our opening day game is not an easy one. We're facing Omaha and they're good. So can we get out of that tournament 4-1 or 5-0? And then that's quick out of the gates. And can we maintain the race around using a horse racing analogy? Can we get around to each point of the track and split our season up into a horse race and see when we do have the downtime and the other horses catch up out of the gate, can we come around the bend and have a good race to the finish? And hopefully it's not a photo finish like last year.
No, no, no. We don't need that. That'll be fine. That is Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton joining us here on In the Circle D1 Softball. Always a pleasure. I think you've been on every year now since like 2019, so I like that streak. I know we'll cross paths during the season, but in the meantime, be well there.
Well, you too, and hopefully I'm not bringing the viewer and listenership down any.
No.
But yeah, thanks for what, as I tell y'all, thanks for being a big ambassador for the sport and everything you do. I think a lot of people know it, but I know talking with you off air and in our text and our phone calls, I know you put a lot of work into it. You're a true professional, and I appreciate you.